breaking down the barriers that you previously had, rather than just trying to do the same thing as you've previously done each year.
I wanted to know that if I set myself a target, I can achieve it. And so that was my why.
Can we be proactive and preventative for future issues?
Is there much research talking about the sort of mental power improvements of doing exercise, things like memory and cognitive ability and concentration span?
I'm from the fitness world. You know, as a business world and a fitness world, they've got to sit as level. They both complement each other.
So you had a busy weekend then?
Standard weekend, really, Dave. It was
Standard
busy.
weekend.
Well, you know, busy for me is young kids, active, fine balance between sitting around and watching a bit of TV as well as being, you know, childcare and...
See, I've got this impression of you always doing exercise and activity. The thought of you sat on a sofa, I can't even picture it.
Yeah, I'm doing my best to sit still already in here because I don't sit down all day long. I'm active, I'm on my feet. But I say inactive, you know, we went and hit some balls at the driving range. Cool. I ran on Sunday, I trained on Sunday night, so I say inactive, but you know there were times when I was equal amount of relaxation as well.
Well, you got to do about that as well.
That's a weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, good. I had a bit of a knee problem on Saturday, so I didn't go for a run. Normally I would do if we were out doing that. But I did feel cheating a bit, so I went for one of these wild saunas on Sunday morning.
Nice.
And that gets your heart rate right up to 140 and you just sat still.
Yeah.
So I think that's great. It's like exercise.
Wild sauna, so cold first though, into some sea or a lake or a fjord or something.
Now, a couple of weeks ago I did one in Scotland into a loch, which was pretty good. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
But I went up to near Whitchurch in Shropshire here and they've got a lake there, Alderford Lake, just outside the town. And so, you go. But some people go in there first and then do the sauna.
Yeah.
So
contrast
rinse,
therapy.
roast,
This
repeat.
is the thing.
I go sauna first, then the lake. So roast, rinse, repeat.
Oh, right, okay, interesting.
Different strategies. Yeah. I don't like the idea of going into cold water without being hot first.
That's interesting.
Whereas my wife much prefers the other way around. She likes to go and get cold first and then heat up.
So you're like ships in the night. You don't see each other. One's in the cold, one's in...
To be fair, I don't stay in the water anywhere near as long as I'm in the sauna.
Well, that's it. Well, it's interesting that it is to whether you know, what's the benefit of it physically, mentally, which do you feel better with?
Yeah,
you know,
and I think the main benefit I get is feeling so pious afterwards that I've gone and done something like that early in the morning.
Yeah. A
bit like when I do early morning workouts.
This is the world of fitness, of what we do, is sharing our runs on Strava and all our activities so that you can get a thumbs up or some kudos.
Get that kudos.
Oh, absolutely. It's all self-righteous.
I saw that great.
Kind of
there's an Instagram piss take of that where someone knocks on a mate's door in the days before Strava.
Yeah.
Like, do you know, I've just been on a run. Oh, well done. Are you going to give me some kudos?
Yeah, I love that. It's good, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, I'm happy is what I've been.
Yeah, it's good.
Very good. Anyway, should we do a podcast?
Yeah, why not?
Hello and welcome again to another episode of the SME Growth Podcast from Wellmeadow, where every week we try and come up with something new or interesting for owners and managers of small and medium-sized enterprises. And here we are in January, and believe it or not, episode 154.
Wow.
We're very lucky to have a guest in the studio to kick us off for the new year, so I wanted to say hi to Tom Meehan. Hi, Tom.
Good morning. Hi.
Thanks for coming in.
Oh, that's quite all right. Love to have a chat.
Local lad?
Yeah, I've been in Shrewsbury and Shropshire for quite a few years now. We moved over here when I was sort of 10, 11 years old, so I've grown up. I've grown up here and I've
This is what you know, schooling here and...
Yeah, absolutely.
So your business here?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's grown into a place that I came back to after university and really love being here, really. And then my own family sort of growing here now.
Yeah, brilliant. So the idea of today's episode was trying to tie into the whole January theme, and everybody's probably overindulged a bit over the last couple of weeks. Well, they've been away for Christmas, come back, and a lot of people start to think about fitness and diet, and should we do something different for their New Year's resolution? And it probably lasts, if you're lucky, 3 or 4 weeks, and then by the time you're February, you're back to normal again. So we thought, well, why don't we get someone to come in and talk to us about maybe how to break that cycle and do it differently?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a standard reset, isn't it, for us all?
Why not? Yeah.
Even people who are in the fitness industry, people who are super healthy and committed to their diet and their exercise regime, it's natural to have breaks, to have cycles. Professional athletes, we periodize, so you have these cycles planned out. Now, I try to talk about that with clients over the years, that we have natural periodization already set for us, whether you've got kids at school age where there's half terms and different commitments and school holidays which interrupt your training and your diet, and there's birthdays and there's celebrations and offices. I don't know what your office policy is with cakes and things on birthdays, but this, we
try not to, but every now and again it links.
But yeah, certainly this time of year it is absolutely.
So it's using one of those natural breaks then as a springboard to say, right, okay, let me do something different then. I mean, it's a start. I suppose we've had the whole break of Christmas and the overindulgence bit, which might trigger you into some sort of guilt feeling.
Yeah, for sure. The guilt feeling's massive, isn't it?
There's that looking ahead, isn't there, to what comes next. So we're going to talk about that today. And say this is episode 154, and Tom's joining us as a professional in the health and fitness sector.
That's nicely put. I like that. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. It's always hard to know what my job title is, because I do wear so many hats, and over the years,
personal trainer, you're a gym owner, you're an advisor, and all that. So we're going to do that today. Just in normal fashion, though, we do a quick rundown of what the past 3 episodes have been, and because it's been a bit weird around the end of the year. So just to go through, last week was episode 153, where we did an outlook of 2026 and come up with some growth tips for business owners for that. The week before that was Christmas Day itself, episode 152, when Richard did his King's speech. So I hope you enjoyed that. And episode 151 was the last proper one of 2025, when we did a bit of a year in review. So that was the last 3. So it brings us back to today. And in your background, you've not always been a fitness instructor, have you? You had quite an active life before that in sport, doing all your speedway.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So, I mean, my history really from university days, I went to uni and studied sports development and coaching. So coaching has always been something in the background that's always sort of been at my core. And then as you leave there and you leave university, as is often the case, I think you're not quite sure exactly if you haven't gone into a particular career path and a job as such, the world is kind of open for you to do whatever. And I didn't really fall straight into the industry in a working sense, but was very much wanting to pursue my own sporting activities, and that led me from off-road motorbikes into road racing bikes, and that was a real focus for me personally. And if I'm honest, I probably took about 6 or 7 years of not thinking about career, just going, I'm earning money how I can to pay for not even anywhere near how much it costs to go and race bikes every weekend. So, that suddenly spiraled into a point where we couldn't do that anymore, and I had to go, all right, let's switch it on its head, and we need to think about the career a little bit now.
Get a proper job.
Well, yeah, either some kind of proper job. I've always wondered whether my job is a proper job, because I do have very sort of strange hours that I keep, and that based on the fact that it's quite an antisocial job in the respect of those hours, but you're also very social because you're meeting so many people and different people all the time. So it's a very sort of an interesting job.
Well, you've been doing it for quite a while now. So
yes, Dave, I'm getting on now. Absolutely.
Sorry to remind you of that.
Yeah, no, I know.
But it means you've been through a few of these New Year cycles. You've been through a lot of Januaries with clients who are coming to you in gyms, in various different settings, either commercial gyms or your own gym, or as a private personal trainer just for them personally.
Yeah, for sure.
So the whole thing we're talking about today, especially aimed at owners and managers, busy people within business, they're going to come back to work, they're going to think, okay, how do I make it different this year, and not just have 3 weeks at the gym and then spend a year paying my membership fees without actually using it.
Yeah, I mean, for commercial gyms, they're the dream customers.
Yeah. Never use the facilities.
Never use it.
Direct debit.
Absolutely,
no problem. Just to get this going out. So, is there a sort of a top tip, or if someone came to you now as a someone in business, and they say they're busy and they come up with all the excuses before you've even got in the door, and they say, "Come on, then, Tom, help me achieve my goals," and that's the whole question itself. How do you deal with people like that?
Yeah, massively important for them to be thinking in a business sense. How do they transfer that to what they're doing to me? They're asking me to fix it for them. Okay, so the important thing, I think, is to really dig down into what do they really want and what do you want. So, for example, yourself, what is it that you want from your exercising or your training? And that can be a whole number of things. And it's better that it is that rather than I just want to lose weight. Because often this time of year, like you said, the overindulgence, the inactivity, and we all are guilty of eating differently and socialising at this time of year, which is not a bad thing. That's life. We need to have those.
That's going to pass. If your motivation was to work off whatever I've overindulged in December, then by the time you're halfway through January, you're going to think, I've done that now, fine, and that's your motivation gone.
For sure.
So it's never been it for me.
So I think the response there, you're reacting, you're training and you're exercising in reaction to something. So I like to also then dig deeper and think about, can we be using activity and exercise, and whether it's in the gym or whether it's outside or whether it's at home or even in the office or in hotel room space, can we be proactive and preventative for future issues rather than just thinking about what am I trying to fight that I've just put on with weight.
So that's a much deeper motivation, I think, than the, let's just work off that extra meal. It's lost a bit longer. But do people come to you with that general view that I'm getting to that stage of life now where I need to start thinking about prevention and fitness for general health reasons? Or do you lead them to that? Yeah,
I think there's maybe partly that I do lead them towards that, because I like to have a relationship with people as a one-to-one trainer, and as an owner of a gym. I like to think people who come to me are there for the long term, the return customers and the repeat customers. That's obviously important business-wise. We need, it's much easier to retain those members. It's the classic, how easy or expensive is it to retain them rather than searching for new ones. Generally, people who are coming to find me, coming to find my gym. Over the years, wherever I've been, at a commercial gym, in my little garage in lockdown, outside in the open spaces just after lockdown, or now where I am, the people who are coming to find me, they've already got some motivation. Right. There's a motive. There's a reason why they're trying to do what it is. It's for me to tap into what their reasons are and how do we action that.
I bet it's really good people coming along who already know exactly what they want and they don't need much input from you. You just help them. You're facilitating them. But there must be some people that come along with a very flaky or superficial level of motivation, and they've come thinking it's because they should, or I'll just give it this 1 or 2 shots and see how I feel. You've got to work a lot harder with people like that, haven't you, to really tease out of them the why.
Oh yeah, I mean, that over the years, that's also been. I have people who haven't always stuck with me. It's not a magic, magic sort of recipe to go, there it is, I need that, and that's the answer for me. There's got to be a two-way relationship and commitment, a financial commitment, but also a time commitment, which is one of the biggest things people struggle with, or the number one excuse, the number one barrier to participation. I'm pulling off like phrases that I learned at uni 25 odd years ago. We talk about barriers to participation is still what the number one topic is that we'll discuss in an initial meeting with people, because everyone's are very similar, but it'll also be, some people's will be very time restricted. So we have to look at why they're trying to exercise, why they're trying to be active, what are their real desires. And like you said, if they're flaky and they're very broad and it's like, I just feel that I should be here, are they doing this as a chore? How do we make this something that they stick at rather than something that they have a little go at and feel doesn't work? So the results are important, and results can be a whole number of things. There's wearable tech that we were talking about, and where you're looking at results in terms of data. But that's not everything. A lot of it is the intrinsic rewards where you feel good for doing something, and that's one of the biggest things that I try to play on with new clients, is about feeling good and feeling that you're making a positive,
feeling better about yourself.
Better about yourself, a positive change for whether it's weight loss, shape change, mental health, productivity. It's got to be that.
Just on that one, picking up on the weight loss one, because I think a lot of people just associate that naturally with why would I go to a gym. That I don't sense that the people I know that come to your gyms or the people I exercise with, that any of them are there for weight loss reasons.
No, I think more and more so over the years. And again, as a coach and as a trainer, I think what I've always tried to keep that as much as people might come to me as that is their primary goal. They maybe think it's their primary goal. I try to shift that almost to a secondary benefit and say, okay, let's keep an eye on that and make sure that we're not overeating or we haven't got a complete imbalance. But let's look at what we can work on that you can stick at sustainably, sensibly, safely for your own condition, whether it be medical or whether it be injuries or whether it just be your actual current level of fitness. We're not going to throw you straight in at the deep end of something super intense. Start to chip away at those things and let those secondary benefits happen anyway and be a noticeable thing in the background rather than that primary focus all the time.
Yeah, I like the idea that you're getting people to feel better about themselves as well. Because, maybe people want to lose weight partly for that reason as well. But weight loss, as we know, is a very difficult thing to sustain, even if you manage to achieve something in the short term. It can go back up and down again. Whereas feeling better about yourself because you've just got an active lifestyle, that's a little bit easier to keep in place, keep sticky with that, as long as you can keep some sort of activity going.
Well, that's the same with diet and eating well, isn't it? I mean, kind of the vast majority of people who come to me, or I've met over the years, even from the very early days in commercial gyms, is that you can pretty much get people to understand and tell me what they're doing wrong. Now, they might not know how to do things right, and that's kind of what my job is, and over the years I've learned that. But if I said to you, what have you eaten over the weekend, or what do you think is the things that were probably, the worst over you? You'd easily be able to identify, I did have a couple of pints and a takeaway, or not that they're terrible things, but you're suddenly drawn towards those things that are maybe not perfect in your activity and your health, right? So they can identify them already, but what they need is a pathway and guidance and an ability to go, okay, well, that's part of my life, but how much is the balance? Now, one of the hard things I will say now is to say that actually training and going to the gym and exercising till you're blue in the face is probably not the best way to lose weight.
No.
And that's the misconception of that we go, put on loads of weight over Christmas. I'm feeling lethargic. But we want to go there and feel energized. So just play on that bit and go, we want to, again, like we said before, feel better. And the rest of it will kind of fall into place rather than going, I've just got to exercise to lose weight. It's got to be a shift in that mental
So we've covered a
approach.
bit about the why and the fact that it's not all about losing weight. It's about feeling good about yourself. I remember when I first got into some sort of structured exercise at all, it was back when I was turning 40 and I thought I'm going to run a 10K. I never run any distances before, and that's what got me into it. It wasn't about going to the gym necessarily, but it got me into regular training and exercise.
And was that to get a time in that 10K, or just to achieve it as a distance?
Get round.
To do one. Okay.
Just want to get round.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I was challenged in one of these business networking groups, which Richard knows a bit about, because we were similar groups in the same organisation. And every January they used to say, right, what are your goals for the year? And people would come up with, relatively well-meant ones, but they were all a little bit, it didn't really appeal to me. So I just came out almost taking the mick, I suppose, really, just trying to be the sort of clown in the class. I said, right, I'm going to run a 10K, I'm going to learn to play piano, and I'm going to blah, 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 something else. Can't even remember what it was. Anyway, I did those two and maybe the third one as well. So I learned to play piano, I taught myself and got my grade 2 and all that in the year. Never played it again since. And I ran my first 10K, which took a bit of training. And on the back of that, of course, I'm thinking, I could do that again. I'll run another 10K.
I was just going to ask you then. So when you've done your first 10K, I imagine you looked at the time.
And
your positioning. And
I think I was about 50 minutes, which is kind of average first time for a bloke doing 10K. All right. Yeah. Sort of 5-minute average, isn't it? Per K. Yeah. And then I thought, I must better do better than that, and then I started challenging myself to get a bit faster, and it was all about running. And then when I met you guys, it was more about the all-around fitness rather than just running or cycling as I used to.
And you feel the benefit from the training that we've done together.
But it got started off because of a thing that I just wanted to do to prove myself. I wasn't thinking I want to just feel better about myself generally. I just wanted to hit a goal. I wanted to know that if I set myself a target, I can achieve it. And so that was my why. It wasn't so much the activity itself. It was if I choose an activity, I can do it. Just like learning the piano, that wasn't very active based, but it was another set myself a daft challenge and prove that I can have the staying power to achieve it. So that was my why. It wasn't about losing weight, but some people do come and you'll help them with that. Some of them it's just about, feeling better, as you say, feeling set up for the day. Yeah. All sorts of benefits of doing exercise, aren't there?
Well, they're well documented, aren't they? The number of benefits, and that really is the important thing to remember, is that you might think slightly differently to somebody else, and someone watching you. And there's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot in the social media about comparison being the thief of joy, and I'm conflicted with my views and my thoughts on that, because again, as an athlete and as a competitor, well, I'm continually comparing myself to people around me and times that I want to achieve and goals that I want to hit. So there has to be a comparison. Now, whether that's a fair comparison, do those people have the same job as me? Do they have the same old injuries from crashing motorbikes as me? Do they have kids at the same age as me? So you can kind of be a little bit kind on yourself as to where you stand. But personally, I quite like the idea of some comparison, as long as it's healthy, as long as you are motivated by that.
Well, that's because it taps into your why.
For sure,
someone else, maybe their why is just, I want to make sure that I can stick at this for this year, and I'm going to go once a week for 52 weeks. It doesn't matter how fast I go or how many reps I can do or what weight I'm lifting or anything. It's just, I'm going to turn up once a week. For them, that might be their why.
So the rise of parkrun, for example, that every week it's on every...
It's the regular. Well, for them, of course, I think parkrun is great because there's a social element of it. Hundreds of people turn up in the same town. There's that sense of community, volunteering, that giving back something to some worthy cause. And even going to a gym, you're going to meet the same sort of people every week and all that. So there's all sorts of different whys that you must better tap into
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly.
So we talked about the why you want to do it. Now, you mentioned just there a little bit about the barriers to doing it. And one that will crop up a lot for listeners of this podcast will be time, like you said. So how do you help people just reframe that? You can't give them any more time than they've already got, right? But it's how do you help them make the right prioritization decisions or have the right motivation so that even though we're all pressured for time, they still come along. You have very busy people coming to your gym.
That's,
right?
I mean, you nailed it with one word there, is the prioritization, isn't it? So we have to look at what are the intrinsic and extrinsic benefits of their exercise or their activity, and build it in around their day, build it into what they're currently doing. Forming habits is easy. Forming good habits, maybe a little bit harder.
Yeah, we all form bad habits.
We can form bad habits quite easily. So we have to break those bad habits down and think, okay, well, can I not apply the good habit in that sense? And can we look at what is it? We've analysed the why, like you said, and if we're going to tap into where is the time available, we've got to make that time available, because otherwise you'd say, right, let me look at the diary. Oh, there's only that slot available because that's there. So if you had to send an important email, if you had to schedule an important meeting, if you had to, create a time within a diary, you'd probably do it because it has a reason and an end goal. And you've got to treat your exercise and your activity much the same, because we have got those end goals and those reasons and those expectations that it's going to be productive for your productivity, your mental health, your well-being, staff wellness. We talk about that sort of thing. The old-fashioned, here's a gym membership that's discounted. It's kind of pointless. It's not going to get used by the vast majority. But also businesses do it differently now. They'll bring people like myself in to do something a bit more specific, a bit more targeted towards those, or and it doesn't have to be a gym class or an exercise class in there. It can be these kind of away days or half days. Yeah. But again, some people don't see that as productive. But if you step back and look at the real benefits of those things that aren't directly your work, it's going to help.
So I like the idea that, like with all prioritising, like you say, the important email, the important letter, that review you got to do, that negotiating that contract, those things will always come top of the heap. So you could just juggle things by attaching a different value to the activity or exercise that you do. But the other technique I wondered whether you see a lot of is where people are creating new bits of their week, new bits of time are being carved out that they didn't even realise they had before. And I've noticed you do 6:30 a.m. sessions, right? Yeah. I'm sure a lot of gym does that. That for me grabs a bit of time that you were only going to be, in your slumber as you're actually coming to and maybe thinking about your shower, or maybe not even up yet, depending on your daily routine. So as long as you haven't had a late night the night before, carving out a 6:30 start is possible for most people. Depending, as long as you haven't got 6 o'clock early shift at work.
You don't have to be part of the 5 a.m. club. It's not.
You don't have to be, but
there's no reason why. Again, creating habits, creating time.
You might have a day of the week where you haven't got a particular regular thing on that evening. So by going to something on that evening, that creates some time. I think one of the reasons Parkrun has done quite well is the way it's chosen its start time. 9 o'clock on a Saturday is that time. It's the first day of the weekend. People are used to getting up early during the week, and maybe they've got to do the shopping that morning or take the kids swimming or mow the lawn or whatever. But that very, very early bit from 9 till 10, they can sort of carve that out without really stealing time from anything else. So it's not so much of a prioritization challenge if you pick these sort of soft targets through the week to try and fit it into.
Yeah, there's a lot of this kind of feeling that some people have or don't train well at 6:30 in the morning. Like, well, they're not used to it yet, or it's not that routine for them.
There's no physiological reason why you couldn't, right?
No. I mean, obviously eating and but this is all about eating and sleeping and what you do in preparation for these. Right. And that's, again, why perhaps training early in the morning will give you a little bit of a subconscious, or the night before, maybe I won't eat or drink like I have done in the past. So things become a bit more guided towards fueling and nourishing your body correctly for the kind of workouts that you want to achieve, which again is a nice spiral. We're spiraling upwards in a kind of positive way. You talk about the Saturday morning thing. That's absolutely right. It's a leisure time for people. So for my industry, it's a working slot. My new studio where I have a Saturday morning session, because it's still at the moment in its infancy, really, that I don't have a huge bank of coaches. That session is a little bit late. It's kind of 10:30, which has become a bit more popular, but I've got a kind of long-standing agreement with some guys who are trained a bit earlier than that. So they take my priority at the moment at 8:30. So well, obviously you're one of those guys. you know what happens.
Yeah.
But that's a classic example. If we commit to that time and it's there and everyone's turning up, using that using that model is what you have to do in the week as well. You've got to split those days up. When is the most available, the most productive time for you as an individual? Now, that might also mean that you're not going to a gym to go and do a sweaty workout for half an hour.
Yeah.
It could be literally a short walk outside. It could be active. It could be getting off your seat, like I'm trying not to get off the seat now because it's been a good 20 minutes.
Fidgety.
Yeah, absolutely. It's about activity for that individual. That's when we come back to what their why is and when we work out what's suitable for that individual. But yeah, for sure, blocking those little times in. Like I said, you don't have to be the 5 a.m. club, but my alarm's set at 5:20 every morning. Now, even if that's a 6:30 class that I'm coaching, I've got time. I've got a time that I get up and I get to work, and I've set everything, and I've got then a bit of time to myself to do. Okay, mentally prepare for what I'm going to deliver, make sure things are right physically in the studio.
Yeah.
But also there'll be sometimes that I have to do a bit of movement myself there. You know, people don't see the things that go behind the scenes to keep my body moving and
You're supposed to keep fit as well.
Yeah,
right?
but I've got to do those things for myself, haven't I?
Now, I see in some of the businesses I've worked at in the past, I think the whole 10,000 steps a day thing has captured people's imagination. I think it came out of the Tokyo Olympics way back, and there's no real scientific backing to why it should
No,
be
there's
10,000.
absolutely not. It was a created thing, but it's a wonderful thing to look at, isn't it?
So what I find is I go to businesses, and around about the lunchtime period, where people still have a structured lunch hour, if they even have that anymore, but they would go for a walk, and they just try and get the steps up. So one of my questions I wanted to ask you is, if you did carve out half an hour of your hour lunch break after you've had your sandwiches, is there something better you can do than just go for a walk? Because
I probably don't have sandwiches at lunch as well.
Well, maybe not.
Let's talk about that. That's a whole new subject.
Get your diet. Well, we'll talk about diet in a minute. But if you did want to carve out half an hour of something that was reasonably achievable to do at work, you're not going to get sweaty about it. But is building up your step count necessarily the best thing to do just because it's easy? Or if you had half an hour free, or you could advise people at work with half an hour free at lunchtime, what would you get them to do if it wasn't just going for a walk?
So the half an hour free thing, isn't it? It's interesting, the terminology. Is it there? Is it free, or is a structured block that you need to be putting into place and go, that's half an hour of activity? Yeah. I would say activity, again, over exercise, over sport. And activity is movement. So yes, going out for a walk, fresh air. If you're stuck in an office, absolutely fresh air. You know, light. Yeah. Light's important. All these natural things that we need to get into our system daily, particularly when we get to this time of year. It's important to address those things. What is that comes back to what I said originally. What is the best exercise for fat loss? What's the best exercise for this, that, which is what I get questioned a lot of the time. And that is very individual. I would say it's the one that you enjoy or that you can stick to. Because if you've been doing the ones last year that you haven't stuck to, let's not do those again. Let's try and find something new. This is the rise of things like park run and other sports that are really capturing people's imagination.
So if the walk at lunchtime was there because you can stick to it, and maybe you're walking with colleagues and you're having a chat while you go, then absolutely nothing wrong with that. Carry on, get your steps in. But if you did want to just up it a little bit, what else could you easily do in imagining in an office environment? You're just going to go walk up and down the stairs or something.
Yeah, this depends on how, like I said, how hot and sweaty you might get doing something like that. But certainly increasing the intensity. Changing the parameters a little bit. Okay, I've only got 20 minutes, so I'm going to walk quicker. So you either got to change the duration or the intensity of that activity in order to start making progress. And that's also where we talk about the step count. If I'm doing 10,000 every day, well, can we do that few more, or can they be a bit quicker? So there is a little bit of
if you varied the intensity a bit. So even if you're doing your half an hour walk and you're used to doing however many steps you do at that time, you could, I suppose, say, right, between now and the next lamppost, I'm just going to walk a little bit brisker pace.
Well, there's the thing like, you don't have to go out wearing a weights vest like you've got a stab vest on, but it's rucking was what it's called. In the States, it's massive, and they carry like a weighted plate in a like a little rucksack. And so you're increasing the intensity of that walk. Yeah. So there's little things like that you can do to change it. But again, activity with simple bodyweight exercises or stretches, or it doesn't have to be, when we talk about yoga and Pilates, they're fantastic forms of exercise, and led by an instructor that can really make sure you're doing things safely and appropriate for you is obviously important. But you can benefit from a few simple movements like that. So simple stretches and mobility. Like I said, I do in the morning at 6 o'clock when no one's there, as I'm using resistance bands just to mobilise my shoulders and my back or whatever might be sore from the weekend's activity. So there are little things you can do. There was a study as well with super high intensity, HIIT training, and and real HIIT training is hard for most people to tap into because they don't quite work to the level as what you have to, because it's very hard for the average Joe to work at that 80% plus of maximum heart rate for even short periods. But I think there was I can't remember who it was. No, it was a little while ago where they were doing sprint tests on a bike, on a stationary bike in an office, and it was 20 seconds of sprinting. But that was it. for the day.
That's all it was.
That's your exercise, 20 seconds, you sprint.
Right.
And the physiological benefits of that, of making that heart rate spike and then the recovery from it and the stimulation of everything from there was proven to be as beneficial as maybe doing, like you said, like the 20-minute walk. So it's not a one fix for everybody.
And do you think you talk about beneficial there, and I guess they measure that a lot in physiological terms. We've already said it's not about weight loss, but it's about other things.
Yeah.
Your general health across the piece. But certainly in this business context, is there much research talking about the sort of mental power improvements of doing exercise, things like memory and cognitive ability and concentration spans and all that stuff? Is that people sort of talk about anecdotally, but is there good solid
there is.
evidence for that?
I can't reference studies, but there's definitely evidence to prove that. Cognitive brain function and exercise are they're linked together, and it actually works both ways. So we were doing this as an experiment at an event we went to recently. I can't remember where I'd seen it. When people say they've read stuff these days, it's more like you've seen on Instagram or you've come across something. So whether the sources are real or not, but it was to do with brain function and exercise. So reversing it. So rather than going, okay, my exercise is going to help me have more clarity and think better, and there is scientific proof that does work. That we are more productive when we have a balanced approach to what we do actively. But I was saying the other way round is you're training and challenging your brain before then and going and doing exercise. So you're almost reversing the focus of I'm getting the grey matter working, as for an old phrase, but you are. So we were doing that with like a Wordle kind of thing of just getting our brains working and then going and training. And it was about concentration and about stimulating those receptors that your brain, and because when you're exercising, there's a huge amount going on with your central nervous system. The receptors from your brain to your muscle function to your to what your heart rate is doing and to what energy systems we're tapping into with, and then that can be to do with fueling or to do with what weight is available on you to access as an energy source. So it's quite scientific, and that's not something I studied particularly at university, but it's something in later career that I'm more interested in and looking to kind of progress with my own.
I wonder if you did one of those sort of mental exercises before exercise, then you did the physical exercise, then you did it again after, whether you could see the improvement.
Well, yeah,
because it sounds like it's almost things like that, especially business people are always looking for cause and effect and return on investment, and we're very numbers based. And you talked about the wearables and watching your recovery time and your VO2 max and all these numbers. But it's certainly if you could see a tangible improvement in your ability to do your job, because it gives you an excuse then, doesn't it, to prioritise that time. So no, I need to do that.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Why is it? It's quite interesting when you say the word excuse. So it should be linked. Because I'm from the fitness world, as a business world and a fitness world, they've got to sit as level. They both complement each other, rather than it being an excuse to go and exercise.
I know, it's good that you picked up on that. It's language I just accidentally used. But people in business do feel it's a bit of a self-indulgence to treat themselves, do something for themselves.
It feels like wasted time, or it feels time not achieving something particularly business generated.
Could be doing research for the business, or getting through my emails, or writing that report. There's always stuff to do in work, isn't there? So it does feel a little bit selfish to then say, no, rather than doing that, I'm going to leave work half an hour early and I'm going to go for a run, or I'm going to turn up a bit late and do this.
We strip it back to when you're kids. I've got young kids at school. If you were to go, just send them out, tear around the playground for 10 minutes and then bring them back in, to definitely be a calming level of more concentration once they've got almost out their system. I think that's got to transfer to later life, that we still have that innate sort of need to kind of expend energy. And that comes with then how much energy you have and how good your diet and your sleep and everything is, because all those things, and hydration, all those things are important. They've got to marry up together. They've got to balance in order for the exercise to be productive. But I definitely think there's a huge link between the cognitive function and concentration levels, for one, is massive. I find that hard to sit still, like I've said a few times, but hard to concentrate on a screen because I'm not used to it. But I need to have little breaks, and those time deficits. I've got half an hour for my lunch to run or to walk or to do this, do some stairs, do some squats, do some body weight stuff. That has to be a structured block in your time. So then the next half an hour is something else. It's going to be half an hour of emails, and then it's onto something else. To structure the day a bit more like that, even a little bit more strictly, gives you a time frame and gives you but in business sense, you've got to achieve that. Yeah. So that's probably a good way for people to try and structure it into their day, is to go, I need to achieve that at that time and this time. That's probably a way that people can stick to it a bit better. So that's what we said at the top, wasn't it? Is that how do we stick to it rather than doing what we did last year?
He's a podcast pro. Said it at the top. Richard will love it. For that.
Will he like that?
He's always doing pre-roll and throwing all these phrases out.
I've been listening to too many podcasts sometimes.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm yours, of course.
Exactly, yeah. Squeeze a few in. Yeah. Well, thanks for that, Tom. Very good. We covered a few things there. Just to summarise it. The why. You've got to get the why right and maybe just think other than the obvious. It's not all about losing weight. It's about doing other stuff. Identifying and accepting that there are barriers to being able to do this stuff, but just find a way around them. Invent that new bit of time in the week or prioritise. We talked a bit about that, didn't we? The fact that activity isn't the same necessarily as exercise. You don't have to go to a gym to get your activity up. You can do all sorts of stuff. Get off the bus earlier, take the stairs instead of the lift. Just go and do that walk at lunchtime. And I like that point about varying it. Even if you're into the habit of doing that already, still vary it. Maybe carry the weight, like you say, the rucksack weight, or they go a bit faster or do something a bit different. And then you talked about structure, just trying to find ways of building that into routine and making that good habit, and perhaps even try and draw some correlations across to how you're getting benefits on a cognitive basis, if that's aligned with your goals.
I think not doing it on your own is one of the keys as well. Training with other people, like we talked about the park run, about that community, and that can be with work or with family, with friends, with kids. It's important particularly for what I do is my kids are seeing myself and my wife as active as we are, and it's just it ingrained. It was naturally part of what they do. They're not like, oh, we've got to go and do that, or we're going to go and do junior park run. Yeah, okay. But they're interested. They want to do it. It's part of what they do. Well,
it's probably worth a name check. But that exercise that you talked about, that I'm involved with, you and a bunch of lads twice a week. We've been doing that now since lockdown.
We have,
15 blokes meet twice a week to do an hour's worth of sweaty exercise, usually on someone's driveway. Why do we do that? Is it to go and get sweaty on someone's driveway? Absolutely not. But it's to reconnect with a bunch of 15 blokes twice a week.
There's a huge social aspect to it, isn't it? Where you're getting a huge benefit from that. And again, from the conversations you guys have as well, there's a lot of business chat as well as just social chat, isn't there? There's a very fine amount of banter, and there's there's a lot of talking goes on, not from the coach really. I have to fight my way through the noise.
So make sure they know what exercise to do next.
But that social aspect's really important. I think we've covered a few things. We haven't got a magic answer. I think the sustainability of your exercise is definitely a key. Breaking down the barriers that you previously had, rather than just trying to do the same thing as you've previously done each year. Forming those good habits. And making it suitable for you at whatever stage and whatever age you are, because we all have to change that little bit and accept that maybe we can't do what we did when we were 30 or 20 or
we're all in denial.
We are into there's aches and pains, like you said, your knee, the knee stops you from doing this, but did that make you do nothing, or did it make you kind of do something slightly different?
Just to adapt,
adapt. This is a business thing, isn't it? We adapt and overcome when there's problems pushed into our way.
That's the idea. Thank you, Tom.
No problem.
Thank you very much for coming in. And thank you for listening to another episode of the SME Growth Podcast. I think I'd just like to inspire you, if here we are in January looking at year ahead, try and apply the same sort of discipline and energy to what we're talking about today, looking after yourself, as you would if this was some sort of business project or something that you could more easily get your head around planning for and justifying and measuring a return on investment on. Everyone can do it. It's just a question of applying those thought processes to looking after yourself instead. Anyway, good luck with that. And if other people might benefit from this, please share it with them. Send them on a link or tell them about it in the pub. And in the meantime, good luck with your business.